Hello there, Color Comics. I'm Ytasha Womack, author of the book Afrofuturism, The World of Black Sci-Fi and Fantasy Culture. I'm an author, I'm a dancer, I'm a filmmaker, and a Lovecraft enthusiast. And I'm here today to discuss the Afro-fantastic journey of one of my favorite characters, Hippolyta Freeman, portrayed by Aunjanue Ellis.
Hippolyta's journey features a series of moments in time and space, all in the service of answering the question, who are you? She becomes a dancer, a warrior, and an explorer. What was your favorite story throughout this entire journey?
I liked all of them. Uh, as any fan would say. But I'm a little partial to the dance adventure because I'm thinking about here's Hippolyta, this woman, devoted wife, clearly taking a backseat to her husband, really subverting her own interest in science as she upholds her husband in his inquiries. And she gets to be in Paris in the 20s with Josephine Baker and experiences a new kind of freedom. Immediately, she's on stage. She's wearing this little sexy outfit. She's trying to understand the choreography. Of course, she's gawking at Josephine Baker, but she really encourages Hippolyta. So in this moment, they become friends, and we see Hippolyta kind of living the life of a single free woman in 1920s France. And it's sort of fascinating because on the one hand, she's this dancer, but then there's the lifestyle. We only see her with other women. She's living freely in a way that she couldn't live in America. But what's fascinating to me about it is that Hippolyta is in 1950s America. And so she's technically looking at like this moment in the past where she's really idolizing, Josephine, someone who's probably a peer with her mother, but a lady who's living a life very much all her own. And as the scene kind of comes to its conclusion, there's this part where, again, Hippolyta's talking to Josephine Baker, and Josephine talks about feeling like she's a star. And Hippolyta says, "Oh, of course you're a star." And she says, "No, like a star in space, where she feels both magnificent and epic, but then extinguished, like a star that's uh, no longer a flame." And Hippolyta then says that she really connects with this moment because she's felt that way in America. And so we go from this point where Hippolyta is experiencing all this freedom, this joy, this newness of being in Paris. But then she starts talking about how she resents being felt, how she resents feeling small. And she feels like she's become the kind of Black woman that white America wanted her to be, and that they found another way to lynch people. And in her case, it was in downplaying herself. And so I have to give a lot of big ups just to Misha Green and Shannon Houston, who wrote this sequence, because we have this arc of a woman who's seeking a freedom through dance, and then talks a lot about how this experience she's having is not one she could have in her day-to-day life.
What's interesting is also the next journey, right? Because after this, we find her back with her husband. It's as if she's waking up from a dream, but we know because of what else has happened in the story that this can't be a dream, right? So she's back with her husband, and I love this moment where she describes what she's been through so far. And she says, never could I imagine anything like this. Baby, a world where I could name myself anything. Um, what are your thoughts around that quote?
Well, when she's waking up with her husband and she's explaining the many worlds theory, we've now sort of established Hippolyta as this woman with a very sophisticated scientific mind. And she's talking to her husband, who's really just confused by it all. And he says something that's a little perturbing. And I'm glad they addressed this in the story. He says, well, at least in one of those worlds, you chose to be my wife.
Right.
To which, it's almost like downplaying these adventures and everything that she's done. And she tells him that he was complicit in making her feel small, which he finally admits to. And, spoiler alert, her husband's no longer alive. And on this next journey, they go into a space is the place, Sun Ra doppelganger, where she gets to explore her astronaut dreams. And I just can't help but think about the limitations that were sometimes placed upon women. We're dealing with some of those limitations some are trying to put in place today. And just the boldness and the audacity and the strength, perseverance, and victory of so many women before us who pushed past that. And doing so in unusual times. We're looking at warriors in ancient Africa. We're looking at Josephine Baker and that whole legacy of women and men and non-binary individuals who went to Paris before the civil rights era, seeking new freedoms and ways to express. So I think about how on one level Hippolyta is talking about the many worlds theory with respect to this quantum physics multiverse idea, right? Of all these places and worlds kind of
Yeah.
existing at the same time. But then at the same time, she's really talking about I can be anyone. I can name myself. I could be the warrior. I could be the dancer. I could be brilliant. I could be the scientist. And it's okay to be all of these things. They're all a part of me. How do I choose to express them now?
And I'm really fascinated by this theme of choices, right? And I'm particularly interested in your take on one of the choices that she makes towards the end. She's become this avatar of Orinthia Blue, which is a character that her daughter made, and she's revisited by these cosmic beings, and they give her the choice. They give her the choice to go home, go back to the portal, go home, or to evolve and to continue her explorations. What do you think? What do you think of that? What do you think of that choice?
I think about the song I Am Every Woman by Shaka Khan, where instead of choosing to be in one life or another, she embraces them all and takes the imaginative vision of her daughter and makes it her own. So here at Hippolyta, she has blue hair. It's implied that that's some sort of effect of her coming out of the many world space adventure she was a part of. And she just embraces this uniqueness and this fortitude, and she becomes the woman that she admired.
Exactly. And but I also one thing I also find interesting is that, Orinthia Blue is this, time traveling space character. And you also created a time traveling space character. Would you like to tell us a little more about that?
Yes, I completely related to the adventure because I have a character named Rayla Elmatic, who's a part of my book, Rayla 2212, Rayla 2213. And she's a woman who, in some ways, like Hippolyta, uh, realized that she had previous lifetimes. And as she's attempting to save her planet, Planet Hope, this former Earth environment, she goes into these previous lives. And in one, she's a princess in ancient East Africa. In another, she's this kind of former military expert spy in 1970s America. And then, she goes into future Chicago, or future Earth, and she is all of these things in one. Her challenge is to integrate these different lifetimes and these experiences as she's reclaiming futures and histories into a present. And so, in that sense, I relate to the desire that the Hippolyta character had, that arc that she had. My character had a similar desire, but I think it's a desire that reflects the interest of many people who want to explore sides of themselves. They're looking to histories and these imaginative ideas about futures, and they want to integrate it into their life right now. and be the person of their dreams.
What can Hippolyta and Rayla's journeys tell us about what it means to be a Shiro?
Well, apparently there's a big affinity to the warrior archetype, which is sometimes seen as this masculine domain, right? But it's about us connecting to the masculine sides of ourselves. And then you have the dancer, this uber femininity of a Josephine Baker, which I kind of align with Rayla, becoming this princess in one sense. And just the idea of being celebrated for a kind of femininity, but it's also simultaneously this archetype. And so I just think that people in general are looking to connect to sides of themselves and find spaces where they can fully explore these different aspects, but still bring them together. Hippolyta is a woman coming into her scientific explorations. Rayla is coming into her own, but she feels very competent as a person who has a relationship to science and strategy. And maybe these two characters, in their attempt to integrate archetypes, have become an archetype.
Well, as we look at the pantheon of Black women in science fiction, why why is Hippolyta Freeman so important?
Well, Hippolyta Freeman is important because she addresses just this core issue of limitations that are sometimes placed upon women, or Black women, women of color, women in general. And then at the same time, it shows that she's moving past both an anger, a loss, and connecting to this dancer energy, connecting to this warrior energy, helps her to move past something that's essentially a tragedy, the loss of her husband, but then elevates her at the same time. So it's almost the idea of being lost in space, but then you find yourself. And I think that this has a lot of relevance because, in addition to so many women wanting to be a multifaceted, the every woman, there is this idea of pulling deep within yourself, and finding the sort of ancestral lessons of these cultural nuggets, of these insights and wisdom of the past, and hoping that it can in some way shape you, and aligning it with the imaginative ideal. Again, she kind of comes to reflect her daughter's vision of what a Shiro is. So I think if there's any relationship between Hippolyta and Rayla, or myself, or a lot of women who are connecting with these Afrofuturist ideas, is that we recognize that we're multifaceted, that we have so much to offer, and we can be all of these things. And as we connect to something deeper, and reflect upon it to move forward.
Well, thank you so much for your insights. And before we go, can you tell us a little bit more about what you have coming up and where we can find your work?
Absolutely. I have a book called Black Panther, a cultural exploration. That's about the Black Panther comic book, another Afrofuturist experience. That the book comes out October 3rd. I'm very excited about that. And I am a part of the Smithsonian exhibit on Afrofuturism that's now being held at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So that exhibit will be up until next year, 2023. And you can always check in with me at ytashawomack.com.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.